Hello, and welcome to the Equestrian Mums Club podcast. We're your hosts, Sophie Conway and Katie Allen Clark, avid equestrians and recent first-time mums. Join us and a herd of other guests as we discuss the wild ride of parenthood and horse care together. Now it's time to take up the reins and walk on into our next episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode from the Equestrian Mums Club. In this particular episode, we're talking about how do I prepare for a baby when I have a horse. So, anyone that's ever owned a horse and also been on holiday, the lucky few of us, will know that preparation to leave for any amount of time, whether it be a day, a night, a week or whatever, means more time than just packing a bag and booking it off work. Who on earth's going to feed, turn out, muck out, and ride while you're away? And the prospect of giving birth is kind of relatively unknown in terms of quantity of how long you're going to be out of action for. So what plans are you going to put in place for your furry friends while you're off making them a new friend?
Also, this is Sophie, by the way. I'm back in. Also, as practical as we all are when it comes to plaiting for a show, so, you know...
Packing or plaiting for a show?
Well, both. Both, really. So, you know, getting ready for a show, you do need to plait, you need to pack your boots, especially eventing. So, as practical as we are when it comes to packing for a show, for example... plaiting your horse, packing your bandages, your travel kit, your
bucket.
Why have I forgotten everything?
Bucket,
what to take to a show?
poo picking stuff,
trailer,
hats,
horse saddle.
Have you actually turned up without a girth anywhere?
I've been without a girth. Have indeed. I had to borrow one from the neighbour. The neighbouring trailer. I mean, eventing is like, it's a complete mind blow, isn't it? This is a completely different subject that we don't need to get into right now. But as practical as we are and the amount of lists that we have to take us to a show, I think packing a hospital bag to have a baby was slightly more daunting, I'd say.
I would say so. And I think it's because it's unexpected, isn't it?
We don't know what to expect when it's your first. I think probably packing a bag for your second would probably be easier and simpler, but you still need to think about your horse and your animals and your dog, and it's the same kind of thing. So in this episode, we're going to talk you through our own experience and hopefully help you to be fully prepared to your new baby, whilst also keeping your fur babies happy at home.
And alive.
And alive.
And alive.
And fit.
And well.
And well.
So let's talk about prepping yourself then, first off. Because obviously, without you, none of it works. So, physically.
Kegels.
So, Kegels was one thing that you did. I
didn't.
You didn't?
I kept forgetting to do them. And then I'd do some Kegels frantic. What are Kegels?
Pelvic floor exercises.
Am I doing them now?
You probably are, yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Am I doing them now?
I just looked Katie directly in the eyes and she knew what I was doing. So Kegels, yeah, those things. I kept forgetting to do them, and then I would do them frantically for as long as I possibly could, and then I'd forget for another week. So I don't think it actually helped at all.
Do you think that necessarily that mattered? Because generally you'd got a good pelvic floor, or would you said your pelvic floor could have done with more work anyway?
I think it definitely needed a bit more work.
She says guiltily with a strange look on her face.
Did you do Kegels? No.
Again, like you, I sort of remembered to do them at some point.
Yeah, I didn't have
randomly in the
Kegel
week.
Routine.
No. Do you know, I had a friend, a horsey friend, who said that every time she got in the car, when she got to a red light, that was Kegels. And I said,
don't leave the property. So it doesn't help me.
But okay, so Kegels is one thing physically to prepare. Did you do anything else?
I did try and remember in exactly the same vein. I tried to remember to do breathing exercises and forgot quite a lot. But that's something that I try and do anyway when I can, for like mindfulness, because I'm so busy and I get stressed. Do you do that? Do you meditate?
Yeah, I mean, this comes on to the mentally part as well, but I meditate a lot, and did before I got pregnant. And
I think that's helped you.
yeah, and I would say that is, the breathing is a key part of that as well.
Yeah, and that's probably helped you be a better mum, actually, because it helps you stay calm. No, I think it does.
I don't know whether I'm doing a huge amount of it now, but
You're doing a wonderful job as a mother, I can assure you. Katie's currently sitting here with baby strapped to her, rocking backwards and forwards like some sort of crazy woman.
Crazy old loon.
Crazy old loon. We know why. We all know why.
Any other physical things? I think I tried to do quite a bit of Pilates.
I did not.
I tried to do.
I mapped out.
I had this really, because I knew I was going in for elective section, but I had this really weird feeling that he might come before my section.
I had that feeling that she might come before the induction, and actually I wanted her to, because I didn't want to be induced. So I was doing stuff like curb walking, so like walking up and down curbs like a nut.
How many curbs have you got round here?
I'm going to town and do it there. And there's something called there's this thing that you can, I can't remember, like stomping, basically. I stomped around to try and get her down into my
pelvic girdle,
pelvic canal, whatever it's called, I can't remember. But to get her in there, I was like stomping around and like walking really quickly, and I was bouncing on a ball to try and get her to come out. So physically, that's what I was doing, and mucking out and pushing wheelbarrows and doing all that jazz. But she still didn't come out, and so I was induced.
And we've talked a lot about physical. Clearly, we could have done better, but we also could have done worse.
Yeah, not
as a
too
duo.
bad. Well, we both.
We were relatively
you walked
fit.
the dogs.
We were relatively fit.
Yeah,
relatively.
Yeah.
But mentally, was there anything else that you did to sort of prepare yourself?
No, and do you know what? I know this is not going to come as a shock to you, but I didn't even get the nesting thing. Like, I didn't tidy the house really much at all, and I sort of prepped my bag quite like maybe a week in advance.
We're very different people, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, because Katie's kind of spotless and doesn't smell too bad. I'm currently looking around the living room and it needs a hoover, I'm not going to lie.
Whereas one of us is verging on OCD.
Yeah. Katie had spreadsheets for her birth, didn't you?
And do you know, that was mental preparation for me, because that was the that was the only way I felt calm, was to organise, because that's just who I am as a person. If I've not got a spreadsheet for it, it doesn't exist in my life, and it can turn into chaos. But no, mentally, I think that really helped me. The other thing that really helped me again was the meditation and the mindfulness, but the preparation. I did mega nest once I found out, but we're also mid house renovations,
so there's only so much nesting really you could do.
Yeah,
because taking over soon the whole house.
Yeah, for me it was all about lists and making sure things were in inaccessible places, so that if I dropped off a cliff, someone else could have picked it up.
I was weirdly calm about the birth. I wasn't really scared, because it was out of my control. The baby was coming out.
Do you know,
one way or t'other.
I felt exactly the same. I was not worried about giving birth at all.
I'd say I was more worried about my horses than.
I was more worried about the afterwards. You got a child then. What on earth did you do?
I wasn't thinking about that.
What on earth did you do with that?
I was not thinking more than sort of 5 minutes in front of my face.
Mental preparation. Tick, tick, tick.
What plans did you put in place for Leo, the horse?
So I've talked about this on another podcast, but I'm very lucky. Leo has always been elsewhere on full livery since I've known I was pregnant, and still is. So for me, my plan for Leo was I need to tell the yard that I'm pregnant and I need to tell them how long I'm expecting not to ride for and someone else to take over from me for. So I don't have to do anything with him.
So what did you do? Did you just ask them to tick him over, or did you?
Yes, I did. Because Leo's a young horse, I didn't want him necessarily to have a huge amount of time off.
Okay.
And he'd only just come back into work after being a bit sickly. So I didn't want him to have any time off. So I said to them, I want you to continue to hack him.
So not like heavy work?
No, not heavy work.
He's tick him over.
Just tick him over.
Yeah.
Rafi's waking up, I think. But tick him over and keep him fit. Because when I'm ready to get back on, I want to get on.
Yeah.
And I don't want to
and
I don't want to faff around.
No, but you have. He's been ready for you to go, hasn't he? So that's actually a nice plan. I do have to say, from a lot of people's points of view, that's a privileged position to be in.
Oh, massively.
Because
massively
you
so.
have to pay for that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Whereas I would never have been able to afford to, especially going into mat leave, knowing that you're going to be a bit broke anyway, earning less, blah, blah, you know.
And bear in mind, I didn't know I was pregnant.
Yeah,
I had
true. You didn't have very long.
I had 3 paychecks to prepare before I had a child. That is mental. It is mental.
Wow.
But in terms of how I then prepared with Leo, it was kind of like I need to make the best of a bad situation rather than, you know, someone can deal with him and that's fine, but that's not what I'd been preparing for.
Leo horse.
I knew I wanted to get back on pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So it was a case of he needs to be fit, ready to go. His vaccinations need to be done. He needs to have had his teeth done. He needs to be full MOT by the time the baby comes out.
So to work towards.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a really good point with the prep for birth, because when you are in that newborn baby bubble, well, for a start, when you're in hospital as well, you don't know how long you're going to be in hospital for. I was there for a week with Olive. You then don't know when you're going to be ready to go out onto the yard, even see the horses. It could be that it's a month after you give birth in some cases. It could be
even longer.
It could be longer. And you might not want to leave the house. When you first have a baby, it's quite a scary thought to take that tiny newborn bundle out into the world. I found it really terrifying.
And the fear of the unknown with them.
Yeah, and you know, you still haven't got to grips with how to even get them around the place. Like, do you prefer, you know, do they prefer being in a pram? Do you want them in a carrier, or do you?
How many times have they pooed before you left the door?
Exactly. I carried Olive around like at least the first probably 10 times we went out in my coat as if I'd stolen her. I ran everywhere because I was so scared of her getting a disease or like cold. I know, I was completely insane.
The first time I went to Sainsbury's, I was terrified.
It is just, anyway, that's a story for another day. But
how did you
prep for your horses, basically?
Again, I'm really fortunate with Leo that I don't have to worry too much about his feed. I don't have to worry too much.
Leo, FYI, everybody, doesn't probably need a feed.
He doesn't, but he has balancers and supplements. No, he doesn't. He doesn't get a feed other than his balancers.
So he gets a feed.
He doesn't need it. He's close. He's close to the edge. But just making sure that medically, and you know, with his feet and stuff, that he had those bits and bobs booked in.
That's what I was getting at, actually, is that you don't want to think about that sort of thing when you're in your newborn bubble. You don't want to have to be worrying about your other dependent out on the yard. And if they've had, you know, if you're going to miss their vaccination. And so actually that's a really good point, is to make sure that your vacs are up to date, your farrier knows that you're going to be a bit AWOL and to book him in, and whoever's looking after them knows when all this is due.
And for you, what was your preparation like? Because obviously you got horses at home, you've got liveries to do.
Right, well, first of all, I've just got to tell the story about what happened the week before I actually was due to be induced. Because I took Peggy for a walk in the park.
Peggy the dog.
Peggy is my dog. She's an Australian Kelpie. Welcome to the podcast, Peggy. I took her for a walk in the park in Lambourne, and I'm walking along, and right next to the road, actually, and so in between the road and the pathway where I was walking Peggy is a baby deer, and she was quite clearly abandoned and was going to get run over, and I didn't know what to do. So I actually called up loads of different wildlife rescue places and asked lots of questions. And it turns out she was a baby muntjac, which you're actually never supposed to rescue because they are an invasive species. Anyway, I left her there, and then I got very upset about it, and I went back to try and find her, and I did find her. She'd definitely been abandoned. She hadn't yet been run over. So she came to live in our tack for
Are you sure that wasn't nesting?
It was some form of nesting. Anyway, and then we fed her goat's milk, which we're supposed to do. And then she moved into a kennel, and we turned a heat lamp on for her. So in addition to trying to sort my horses out, liveries out, and my dog out, I also had to sort out
An adoptive deer
an adopted baby deer called Hermione.
Like you hadn't got enough to deal with.
Exactly. I know. What is wrong with me? Going back to so in my plan, I also had to then add about 4 litres of goat's milk, which wasn't in the original plan. But yes, we did have actually quite a lot of prep to do. Luckily, my amazing friends helped out hugely, and I did. I think I paid them, which gave me a bit of peace of mind as well, because I didn't then feel like I was taking advantage of them. I paid them before I even went into hospital to look after Oscar, my horse, and kind of, because we've got a small yard, and my friend had to kind of take charge of everything, and obviously my partner Alex, he was brilliant, and he was backwards and forwards to the hospital the entire time doing the horses.
How long in advance did you prep your friend to take over yard work?
Thing is, I'm really lucky. She does know my horse really well anyway. And so there wasn't a lot of prep. All I really had to do was just make sure I had enough feed, bedding, hay, that my rugs were sorted and not ripped, and the farrier had been before I went into hospital. Like you said, that everything was kind of up to date and that Oscar was in a good place. He wasn't being ridden at the time anyway. I gave him a holiday because he is 17, or he was 16 then. He does not need, actually might have been 15. I think I'm adding years onto my poor boy. He didn't need to be ridden. He was fine having a holiday. But actually, I think, on hindsight, I think I would have asked somebody else just to take him out for a little hack because he likes it.
And how quickly were you expecting to get back on board? Did that change any of your prep?
Well, yeah. I was expecting to get back on board like 2 or 3 weeks after giving birth. I think it took me by surprise how long the recovery is. It was 6 weeks. It's the same as a C-section. I had forceps delivery. I wasn't prepared for quite how long the recovery is afterwards, and I think that that's something that you should be prepared for, and I would be next time. I'd be like, do you know what, I might see you. Oh, I'll see you all in 3 months. Look after my horse, please. I'm not mucking out.
I think one thing that took me by surprise in terms of prepping my horse, obviously I didn't need to do a huge amount other than the bare basics to prep, but mentally I didn't feel back in the room for longer than far after physically I was back in the room. I didn't feel like I was on top of things. Like I honestly couldn't tell you now when he was last vaccinated, although I know he's up to date. I couldn't remember when his feet were last done, and it's just like my brain had fallen out of my body alongside my placenta. So
Yeah.
I wish.
How long did it take you to get over that? Like sort of brain.
Oh, it's still happening. Still happening. Yeah. I don't feel sharp.
Yeah.
But one of the things I didn't realise is when you have a baby, your brain structure changes.
Yeah. It does.
Your brain
You can
structure.
feel it. You can almost feel it change.
Your brain structure changes in the same way, in the same magnitude as it does when you're going through adolescence and teenager stage.
And puberty.
Yeah. So a mother's brain literally changes dimension, the way your synapses and your neurons fire literally changes as you've given birth.
Fascinating, isn't it?
So
you can feel it. I think you can feel it happen.
So things that felt normal to you in terms of your mental capacity aren't, because those pathways have changed slightly, which I think nobody tells you about that.
No.
Nobody, and
do you feel like giving birth made you softer, more empathetic, or more sympathetic, or?
No, because I feel like I was that sort of person anyway.
I wasn't.
Only to the people I like, just for clarity.
Yeah.
No, I struggled with this, and this is a topic for another podcast, but I struggled quite a lot with not feeling as on it and on the ball and sharp. I felt dumb for quite a while.
You're not, by the way.
Thank you.
Definitely not.
But I felt like baby brain had got in the way, and therefore I wish I'd the reason I'm saying this is I wish I'd prepped for longer for my horse.
That is 100% same as me. I wish I'd prepped for longer for horse. I wish I'd prepped a bit more for my dog. And actually, I think that we should talk about our doggies, because that is a really sad reality of having a baby, is that the dog is going to come second to what they used to be first, because they, Katie's got 2 dogs, and I can confirm that she used to treat them like she had given birth to them. And I wasn't quite that bad with Peggy, but she was my baby, and I've had her since she was like 12 weeks old. And so I think I would have prepped her better had I known quite how little attention you can give them when you get home.
Yeah, I think my 2 were we knew that they were going to be good, but I didn't realise how fantastic they were going to be. But there were other things that we could have done to prep them, which I hadn't done. So things that I would have done to prep the dogs, and this comes under the bracket of prepping your home as well, is I probably would have given them their own areas.
I think. Well, how do you do that if they basically rule the whole house in the
Indeed,
first place?
and my dogs do. They don't have
Peggy.
They don't have any separation and their rooms. They can go in every single room. They can go on every piece of furniture.
My dog's got no boundaries.
No, mine neither. But I wish that I'd given them like their own special little places, so that they felt that they were part of the crew, but they could retreat if they wanted to.
I think actually, Katie, that is something that you should potentially do going forward, because Rafe, Katie's baby, is still only 4 months, and when he's moving around, it's going to get a whole lot worse for those dogs, I can assure you. I think that is a really good shout for going forwards. And
particularly for one of the dogs, Magnus, he is a bit more of a sensitive wallflower. He's a lot more introverted than the girl is.
Yeah, so, he's a bit weird.
He's lovely. He's a precious angel boy.
Tell he's a bit weird.
He's a precious angel boy who never did anything wrong in his life. Whereas she is a sneaky sneakster. A sneaky sneakster who is an evil genius.
So sneaky.
But no, I wish he's probably going to need more of his own space than she is.
You should do that, because currently Peggy tries to upset Peggy. Olive tries to upset Peggy about 10 times a day, and it's stressful to watch, and it's difficult to police, I've got to say.
The other thing with the dogs is, and I don't know whether you found this at all, is but my 2 are still relatively young. They need a lot of exercise, and after a C-section I genuinely couldn't walk them for about another 6 weeks after giving birth, and even then it was pitiful because I was shuffling along.
I know. I think that is we are really lucky. We live on a farm. Peggy gets an adequate amount of walking from going back down to the field to bring horses in and back again with Alex, and with the girls and whatever, and we can walk her down the drive,
and she has quite a lot of free roam, doesn't she?
She has quite a lot of free roam. She does still need walks on top, but we can kind of get away with it. Whereas
my two, they've got the field at ours, but it's
and they've not got a bad life.
They've not got a bad life at all, but they do require, as retrievers, quite a lot of walking, which I was unable to do. So I
wonder if maybe on hindsight you may have got a walker in.
Well, we've got one now.
Yeah,
we got a dog walker in from when Rafe was about 6 weeks, when I just felt so guilty for them, and I've carried that on. I mean, it is another financial burden, but I've carried that on because I really feel like it's worthwhile for them, and for me, it gives me a few days off in the week.
I think it's a great idea.
So we talked quite a lot about dogs, but in other ways about prepping your home. For me, one of the things I was mega prepping was cleanliness in my home.
I think I've already talked about how I was not clean enough. I can confirm Katie's house is spotless.
I think, again, that was a way of keeping my brain less busy in a way.
Yeah.
By focusing on keeping the house clean. But can I just say, I don't think that's actually normal. I think
it's so normal. It is. It's so normal. Everybody talks about nesting, and everybody I spoke to said, "Oh no, don't worry. When you get closer to your due date, all you'll want to do is clean." Well, I can assure you, all I didn't do was clean. I mucked out, I poo picked, I brushed my horse, I took him for an in-hand graze because I couldn't ride him. What I didn't do was clean.
But your version of events was meditative in a way, because that's your life.
Yeah.
And about enjoyment for you.
Yeah, and actually that did come into the equation, because I can remember thinking that actually I want to spend as much time with my horse as I can, because this is going to be limited in the future, and that was the right thing to think.
I mean, for me, the cleanliness, I may have taken it overboard where it sucked out enjoyment other parts of my life. And so I think there's clean, and then there's get a life.
Get a life. We don't...
Get a life.
Okay, can I tell you what my 3 bits of advice are and what I think you should buy before you have a baby?
So
that I couldn't do without.
Yeah, so is this for your house?
For your house.
For your horse?
No, for your house.
Okay.
A sleepyhead. You know those? I think I gave you mine.
I don't think you did.
I think I gave it to Jenny, my friend Jenny, who had a baby straight after me. Have you got one?
I have.
You have. It's so good when they're little, and you're not supposed to put it in a cot with them. They're not supposed to sleep in it. But actually, just for chilling out on the sofa next to you, or on the floor, or on the bed, or anywhere, and you can put them in it. They love it. That's one. A good pram if you're horsey, because you need to be able to push that round mud, stables, with the dogs, parks.
What pram did you guys get?
We needed a 3-wheeler. We got a 3-wheeler, and it was a Silver Cross Surf.
Yeah.
Really good.
And did you buy yours new or second hand?
Second hand. The only thing I bought new was the car seat.
Yeah, likewise. Although I have to say, we've had to go back and purchase some things new because the older things are broken.
Yeah.
But we bought an eye candy all-terrain.
I looked at that.
Which has the option for a 3-wheel or a 4-wheel, and
so does the Surf, actually. The Silver Cross.
We really like it, and it's so far done us really well.
Is he still on a bassinet?
Yeah, he's still in a bassinet. Although he has got fantastic head control.
He does unbelievable. He's going to be walking to the pub soon.
But he obviously he still needs quite a lot of support, and he does quite a lot of sleeping in the day still. So yeah,
jealous about that.
What are the other things that you've bought for your home that are must-haves?
I've got to say I haven't bought a lot. I've had a lot second hand, and I also had a lot of stuff second. I bought a lot of stuff second hand, which I actually never use. So I might just talk about that quickly because I breastfed. I'm still breastfeeding. She's probably going to be breastfed until she's 15 at this rate because I can't get her off. I bought a Tommy Tippy and a sterilizer and all of that jazz, and never needed it because she wouldn't take a bottle. And I can't think of it. I can't think of anything else. Why? Oh, a next to me crib. I think you need that. That was so good. I loved it. Didn't you?
Yeah, I mean,
And that's what I gave you.
You gave me a snooze pod, yeah.
Snooze pod, that's what it is. Yes.
Yeah, snooze pod.
Do you like it?
And it's great because it has the zips down the side and also the mesh so you can see them.
And it's a rocker.
When they're next to you. But I have to say, controversial, it's not next to me.
Who is it next to?
It's not next to anyone.
Oh.
Where our bed is set up, I couldn't get in and out of bed very well after my section. And so when I was trying to scramble out in the night and not wake him up, I'd be trying not to knock this next to me. And so I just ended up putting it in the corner of the room, and that's where it's always stayed.
I don't think there's an issue with that. I think that's the whole point of them, is they give you the choice. So is he still in it?
He is still in it for the moment.
Yeah, and you've got a crib that you'll move him into when I guess he's 6 months.
Yeah.
Usually, that's about normal.
After Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What other home stuff did you think was a must-have?
An egg thermometer.
What is an egg thermometer?
It's an egg that's also a thermometer, and it lights up and it tells you the temperature in the room. And I used that as my guide for what to put her in at night. So as in like which tog on the sleeping bag, etc., etc. And I think it's been really useful, and it's a really handy nightlight, so you don't have to fumble about in the dark and or put a light on.
Nice one.
Get one.
Anything else for your home?
Oh yeah, do you know what? Related back to the dog. Puppy pads.
What
and
for?
Lots of them. Put them on the changing mat, and if you have any wee-wees or poopies that escape out of the bumsies, it catches it and it doesn't slip onto the floor or go all over the baby, and it absorbs it all.
Do you know, I never thought about that.
You are silly, I should have told you that.
Oh.
So good, honestly. Best thing. We've actually stopped using them now. We got to a point where she was just pulling them out from underneath her and eating the puppy pad. So we had to stop using them eventually, but at the beginning it was the best thing. And it was actually our friend Jenny Rudel that gave me that advice.
Nice. Yeah. I have some really random things that I felt was an essential for the home.
Essential. I guess you're still using them, aren't you?
Quite a lot of them, yeah. So one was I had a portable nightlight for feeds and changes.
You should have got the thermometer.
Well, I've got a thermometer separately. Okay. But a portable nightlight that has little handles so you can take it from room to room and you don't have to turn any lights on. That has really been a game changer for me. You're
like Florence Nightingale.
I was like Wee Willie Winky in the middle of the night. Just no candle.
Wee Willie Winky. Carrying a little candle around the house.
My night shirt. Spoiler alert, I don't wear nighties.
Did you want it on?
I'm all about that pyjama life.
My favourite. Anyway, yeah, what else?
I had a baby docking station in every room of the house.
That's just lazy.
No, I just have this... When you're so tired, but also you've got no core strength.
True.
At some point, you're going to need to put this child down.
So true.
So in each different room, I had something different. So a bouncer, a Moses basket, a baby nest.
If you get stuff second hand, then you can do that.
A cot. And I was given so much stuff by people as well. So
was I.
In every room in the house, there's somewhere to put your child. And then the last thing that I thought was an absolute essential for me, and I wouldn't have thought about this, was good quality thermos flasks or sort of insulated cups.
That is
because you forget to drink.
I mean, yeah, but what did we do today?
We we actually microwaved the same cup of tea 4 times before drinking it because you get a bit busy.
Because we got really busy with baby stuff and work stuff and podcasting stuff and horses, and I kept saying to Katie, "Where is that cup of tea?" She was like, "It's still in the microwave."
So yeah, a nice insulated mug will do you absolute wonders.
Right, Katie, what are your essentials for the yard prep? Because I think we've talked enough about home, don't you? We could literally talk about this all day.
Yeah.
And there is lots of advice. If anyone needs advice, email us.
Or socials, that's fine too.
Or social.
So for the yard, obviously, my Leo's not at home, so the amount of prep that I can do for the yard is fairly limited because it isn't my property. But there are a couple of bits that I insisted on before bringing Rafi to the yard. One of them is an extra tall mounting block. Think like the ones that you get for the RDA.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
So tall that all I had to do was slither onto the saddle.
Yeah, that is a very good shout. I can't even get a leg up now because it hurts. Well, I can just about now, but this is a year later, FYI. I couldn't get a leg up for ages because it would like crunch your, you have to jump and then swing. I mean, there was no jumping and swinging going on. Definitely no swinging.
Sort of more clambering.
There was a few, there was, like you said, slithers on and off.
Well, my lovely husband would be winching me on and off, but it got to a point where I was like, I actually
just got this vision of a tractor winching you up and dropping you on.
Well, it kind of probably was a bit like that, or one of those, arcade machines. But yeah, so that was a pretty much a must-have. The other thing is pretty boring, but extra sticky bum jods.
Yeah. I actually concur.
For stability's sake, I have some from Flexars, big up Flexars, which I love, and I bought more of them because I wanted to feel like I wasn't going to.
It's feel secure.
Yeah, I wasn't going to pop off myself.
Also, I think half of that's a mental thing. I don't think they actually save you from any kind of movement. I think they just.
I couldn't move my bum once they were in the saddle.
Really?
Yeah.
See, but I don't like that. I do.
I was also quite heavy though, love. So.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the last thing was safety stirrups. I have got some Athena magnetic ones, and they just made me feel
more confident.
I just felt more confident.
Yeah.
So that was a good prep for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's very good. So we've got like a hard standing yard, and since Olive's been a bit older, because obviously I used to take her out in the pram, so everything was a little bit easier because she would be young, little baby. I'd wrap her up, put her in the barn, and I'd get stuff done. She'd be asleep in the pram. Not so simple now. She's big, she's loud, she's demanding, she's moving around, and so I got her a walker, and I put it on the yard, and she zooms around the yard, and it gives me she kind of keeps herself busy until for me to muck out probably 1.5 beds I can get through without her going, "Wah, mama." So yeah, that is highly recommended for yard work, is a walker. But obviously be very safe, because I only ever use it when there's no horses on the yard, or if they're tightly tucked up into their stables with no chance of escape, because that would scare me. And then actually, because I was breastfeeding, I put a table and chairs in the tack room and a radiator in there, so that if I was out and about, or I was getting worried because she'd been out in the cold for too long or anything, I could just go and sit in there, breastfeed her. I could have changed her in there. I don't think I ever did, but I could have changed her in there if I wanted to, I mean, it's 10 steps back to the house, but if she'd had a really bad explosion, I could have done it out there. And oh my goodness, the best thing ever that we have just bought is a big wheelbarrow. And I genuinely,
very baby specific.
I said to my landlady that I was telling her all about it, and she was like, "Gosh, you are more excited about your wheelbarrow than I was about my horse box arriving." And it's true, because I can now muck out at least 2 beds into one wheelbarrow, and it saves an awful lot of time, which is very, very precious. So I highly recommend that for anybody that needs to muck out multiples.
Well, good to know your essentials. I've realised that when we've been speaking about must-have items, the one thing that we haven't done is tell people about how we prepared for the hospital.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about our bag packing.
We haven't.
I can't remember, Katie.
Well, I think there's some things that I can maybe prompt.
Oh no, I can remember.
I can prompt you about.
I can remember.
So,
do you know what I can remember?
What? Go on.
Those ridiculous pads that are like 5 times the size of a nappy. That when they arrived in the post, I looked at them, got it out, and it looks like some sort of full head bandage.
Yeah, the maternity pads are pretty scary looking.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Yeah, they are pretty scary looking.
But needed.
Because nobody tells you until you're so late in the game that you do bleed for a few weeks after.
No, you bleed a lot.
And yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate I didn't.
Oh yeah, of course, but you still bleed a lot.
No, but you do. It's when your uterus is shrinking back to size. That's why it happens. So it happens whether you've had a C-section, whether you've had a natural birth, whatever.
Yeah.
But you do need them. Soz, guys. Soz.
Yeah, you do really need those. I remember those. Oh my goodness, that's what I wanted to say. Talk about you are triggering my memory, by the way. Colostrum.
So did you express colostrum before you got to the hospital?
So this is probably my biggest piece of advice for anybody that's due to give birth within the next month is, and I think you can start doing it from 37 weeks, is expressing colostrum from your boobs. And it's a really weird thing to do. Did you do it?
I couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it? Did you try?
I tried, but I couldn't do it.
Didn't get any?
No. I couldn't do it until I'd had him.
Okay.
And as soon as I'd had him, I could.
Yeah.
But again, it, as you say, is the weirdest experience of your life.
Do you know what's weird about it, though, is that the first couple of times you do it, you're like, God, this is so weird. I'm essentially milking myself into a tube. But actually, once you've done it, like, I think I ended up with like 30 tubes or something ridiculous.
Wow, that's really good going.
It was really good. And I froze them all and dated them all and everything. Once you've done like the 5th tube, you
get over it.
You get over it. And also, I think it actually did help my mindset with breastfeeding. I think it encouraged me to just keep going through the pain, through the not latching properly, through everything with breastfeeding, to the point where I now have a child that I can't get off the boob. So, swings and roundabouts.
We'll talk about feeding on another podcast, but I think that's a really interesting one.
What's your so you didn't take colostrum in, but you did do it afterwards?
Whilst I was in there, yeah.
Yeah, so what did you take in that was the most important thing you'd say?
The most important thing, tiny little baby milks. Because because
I did pack those and we never use them.
Well, as people will find out, I really struggled with breastfeeding. I didn't have any supply. And that's quite common for people that have C-sections or have PCOS or have a variety of other things that I had. So I knew that it was probably going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
So I
Was his latch good?
Yeah, fine.
Really? Okay, let's talk about that on a different podcast, because we do need to go into that. So I'm actually interested to hear about your journey with breastfeeding.
But no, so tiny milks was absolutely the thing that we could not have lived without.
I took those in. Luckily we didn't need them, but there was a day when I was struggling with the breastfeeding, because I was in hospital for a week. I was really struggling. I kept saying to Alex, can we just give her one of those milks? And he said, why don't you just hold off and see if it gets easier? And we never gave it to her. And in a way, I'm really grateful that we didn't. And then in another way, I think, maybe it would have been easier now to get her on the bottle. But, we never know, do we? We never know. It's all trial and error.
The other things that were absolute essentials were really random things, to be honest. Multiple water bottles. It's swelteringly hot in the delivery ward often.
Well, wait, when did you have him?
August.
Oh, yeah. See, I had Olive in November, didn't I? Because it's her birthday this weekend.
And they had still got the heating on and the windows open.
It is really hot. I remember it being hot even, and it was -10 outside when I had Olive.
And you need to replace all those lost fluids because also some people get it pretty immediately. Night sweats because your hormones are doing really winter things.
Months.
Again, we'll talk about that on another podcast.
I forgot about those.
But the multiple water bottles, yes, and yes. Other things that
that's a really good idea
that I took were, and by the way, I will link to the water bottles I used because they're flipping brilliant. The other thing was snacks of all varieties because hospital food, not for everyone. I particularly lived off Nutella biscuits and homemade sort of nut and seed granola that my mum had made, bless her, because you need to keep your energy up.
Sweets. I actually think that's so healthy. I had Haribo, I had crisps, I had Cokes,
We had some mini Baby Bell.
Mini
Baby Bell.
Mini Baby Bell, like cheese and ham sandwiches from M&S. Do you know what I mean? Like just sort of comfort food that you can snack on.
The hospital provides meals for the mother. Not in our one, we didn't get it for the dad.
Peggy, my dog would not have eaten the meals that I got provided with.
Well, as I was going to say, sometimes they're not to your taste, but also you might not feel like eating a proper meal, actually.
No, you're right. Actually, you don't, weirdly, do you?
So
you had baby.
I mean, I did. I ate a meal and my snacks. But you might just prefer to nibble throughout the day than just
all day, every day.
Just be
and all night, weirdly.
Yeah, and that. Than do the hospital meal thing.
And then have snacks next to your bed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole time.
And then the very last thing that was a must-have for me was some extra long phone charging cables.
Really? Shout. Oh my God.
Because eventually you need to tell your family and friends that another family member exists, or call for a lift, or organise your horse, or organise your dog. And you don't want to be faffing around going, I've got no battery. So
such a good shout. Never thought of that.
Yeah, so those were my must-haves.
I wish I'd known about each other's must-haves actually before we went in.
Yeah, I think
Why didn't we talk?
We were probably in different stages at that point. But I hope this has been useful for someone to listen to. We will on our website and on our socials put some lists up for hospital bags and home check and yard check and things like that, because I think it would be useful for people.
So useful for people. And if there's anything that we forget to put up that you need to know, just drop us an email or get in touch with us on Insta or Facebook, and we will try and remember what on earth we recommended. And
likewise, if anyone's got any fun, unusual essential items that they had for birth or for after, let us know. We'd be all ears. You can email us at hello@equestrianmumsclub.co.uk, or the socials are all Equestrian Mums Club. So that's been our episode on preparing for birth and how do I prepare for a baby when I have a horse
and a dog
and a partner. If you've found any of this useful, let us know. We hope you've enjoyed it. But for now, bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode from the Equestrian Mums Club. It's been great to have you along for the ride. We've been your hosts, Sophie Conway and Katie Allen Clark. Make sure you hit the follow button to hear more from us as we dig deeper into the world of ponies and parenthood. Until next time, stay smiling, stay safe, and try and stay on.